Hello again, and welcome back to this video special of the impossible games that most of us have been known to come across and never beat. Or other such nonsense that these people have thought up. This time we're looking at something from thegamer.com, which basically says what it is. 15 classic Sega Genesis games that are impossible to beat. Okay, this is 4 years old, and we're just gonna go through this mess because there is some truth behind it, and yet at the same time, it might be pure speculation or just outright confusion that was made during the time of said report. In this article, we have the most difficult, if not impossible, to beat Sega Genesis games. That goes without saying. Especially if the first screen you see happens to be Die Nakamura. A common criticism of modern games is that they're too easy, and I guess that's true to an extent. Games of the past had to be difficult so people would keep playing them. As arcade games were made difficult specifically to get players to keep putting quarters, modern games are made with the intention to appeal to as many people as possible and have it be enjoyable to people who wouldn't normally play video games. Or instead of being too easy, modern games get padded out. For example, GTA 4 and 5 are guilty of being too easy. Different games with a compelling story, don't get me wrong, but the GTA series tends to be pad itself with useless stuff. I guess it makes the world feel more alive, but who really wants to go bowling in a video game? Yakuza 0. These games are repetitive because the developers couldn't think of enough content to fill up a whole game, so they stretch it out. Of course, there are outliers. The Dark Souls series takes its inspiration from old school games. Dark Souls doesn't apologize for its difficulty, and if a player can't beat it, then too bad. Dark Souls was loaded for its difficulty, and it reminded people of the games of the past. So, below what I have are the most difficult, if not impossible, to beat Sega Genesis games. The thing about most of these games is they are a ton of fun to play. Yeah, try to say that again. The thing about most of these games is they're a ton of fun to play. Keep telling yourself that. They offer a good challenge to players in a good way for the most part. However, some of the games below are difficult in the cheapest way. Bad controls, confusing gameplay, or impossible difficulty. Starting from the tippy top. And of course, I will also share my thoughts about these selections. Starting with 15, Kid Chameleon. Let's start off with Kid Chameleon, a game that claimed it had 100 levels, which is only sort of true. A good chunk of those 100 levels are bonus levels, and you don't need to play every single level to beat the game. There are warp points that skip levels and entire worlds, but even then, the game takes a while to beat. The levels aren't short, and they're packed with a lot of content. All the levels are complex, have different power-ups that change how the game is played. If all the levels are played, Kid Chameleon takes around 4 to 6 hours to complete. And then a save feature in the game. Save state. So you have to beat the game in one long sitting. But after a while, the game preys on boredom and its monotony to beat players. Take a break while playing this game, because you're in it for the long haul. Okay, first off, when you talk about this kind of game, okay, if it's 100 levels, who the fuck told you to play each and every one of these 100 levels? No, seriously. Who the fuck actually told you you had to sit for 4 to 6 goddamn hours to play these 100 levels? If you're anything like me, a respectable Let's Player would not do this sort of thing. I could see this being done if it was a long play. If you were to show off the game in its entirety. Let me slow down. If you were to show the game in its entirety as a long play, I could see that happen. Whether you're doing it for 4 hours or 6 hours. 4 hours mean you know every inch of where everything is. 6 hours only means you're going to take a while. And if you're in it for the long haul, at least you know you're going to be in it for the long haul. But it's not like terrible, terrible long haul. Because there's a difference between a Let's Play and a long play. A long play just basically shows the entirety of the game. Not how they set it to difficulty. If they do it, they just do it just to be doing it. Just to show the difference between a normal difficulty and a higher up difficulty. And it's only because they played this game play enough times to know, oh, this is what you're supposed to do. However, Kid Chameleon, I pretty much don't see myself playing this before. I've played this game once in my spare time. If you don't think about it, it'll go by real fast. That's how I see it. With a game like this, that's all you have to do. Just not think about it. You don't think about the length of the game, you will actually get through the game a whole lot faster. Moving on, number 14, The Adventures of Batman and Robin. The Adventures of Batman and Robin. Wait, how is this hard again? No, really. How the hell is this hard again? Prior to Batman Arkham Asylum, The Adventures of Batman and Robin was held up as one of the best Batman games ever made. It was also considered an instance where the Genesis version was superior to the SNES version. The Super Nintendo tended to have better versions of shared games, since it was a more powerful machine and was able to do more. So developers had to make do, and in the moment of art through adversity, Konami made a great game. The game had different play modes. A beat 'em up where you throw batarangs like a madman, a top-down driving segment like Spy Hunter, and a flying segment like R-Type. The game has an arcade style of difficulty, meaning there are going to be a lot of cheap deaths, and starting the game over making this a tough one to complete. And get a turbo control for this game, you're going to need it. I only have one word for that. Abacadabra. Or abracadabra. For those who don't know, it's a cheat code in the game. Abba, A-B-B-A, Ka, C-A, Dabra, down A, B, right, C-A. Abra, it might be abracadabra or abacadabra, but I think it's abracadabra, so I might be wrong, but it's abracadabra or abacadabra. I think it's abracadabra, which is A, B, right, A, C, A, down, B, right, A. And please let me know in the comments if I got that right or wrong. Please let me know. Moving on. Again, This is not. You're going to need a turbo controller, but I don't see it being that hard. I mean, as long as you know the game can be cheated, and if you need to, cheat it. I mean, there's nobody in their right mind that I would actually call you out and call you a cheater just because if the game gets too hard, you got to find a way to beat it somehow, right? That's the whole point. Number 13. One of the LS games, otherwise known here as the Genesis version of Aleste, otherwise known as Musha, Metallic Uniframe Super Hybrid Armor. Now, truth be told, I actually use Musha in my story for my book, and how I looked at it was like an armor, something close like the Guyver. Moving on. Musha is a top-down shooter, kind of like Spy Hunter, but way more intense. As your robot cruises through levels, flaming skulls charge at you, and enemy ships zip around trying to get a shot in. Cannons send a steady stream of cannon fire at the Musha, and you can't take a break. There's always something flying at you, and these games aren't generous either. One shot and the robot explodes, and that's just the first level. Other levels have giant robots that take forever to kill and Oni heads flying at the speed of sound. You'll need a turbo controller for this game because your thumb is going to feel exhausted and like it's about to fall off at the joint. Finding a copy of Musha is a problem. I'm sure downloading it because there aren't a lot of copies out there and copies are pricey. Just download it. The game is also available on the Wii U Virtual Console, but at this point, I don't think people are going back to the Wii U. Reminder, 2017 when this was made. And what I mean by that, the article. My thoughts about Musha? Cheat. For those who don't know, there have been 4 versions of Aleste. There was, of course, there was the Master System, the Game Gear, Genesis, and Sega CD. Sega CD version was called Robo Aleste. That was the last of the series. So as far as I know, I played one of the Aleste series. And mind you, this is coming from Compile. Compile, as you know, they're shoot 'em ups. The Guardian Legend is one of them. So, you want to take it up with somebody, take it up with Compile. Okay? Because without them, Toho wouldn't even be a thing over here. Because they're one of the greater shooter companies of our time. So, if it's frantic, and I don't know why most gamers do this to themselves. Just cheat. Just fucking cheat. Okay? Just put a cheat on instead of trying to prove something. Because really, guys, don't do that to yourself. Don't give yourself an aneurysm. It's not worth it. The aneurysm is not worth it. Just put a cheat on if it gets too crazy. Because fuck it, at this point, if you're gonna be exhausted, just go fucking balls off the wall invincible. Save yourself trouble. And speaking of which, number 12 on the list is Streets of Rage 3. Now, before I get into what they say, let me just get this out of the way. I played 1. I played 2. Beaten both. But I've not played... Well, I have played 3. But the problem I had with 3 was the fact that you had a route split. But that's not all. Your characters were basically powered down to no ends. If you were to compare the previous versions of Streets of Rage, or Bare Knuckle in Japan, most people will say, "Oh, I like 2." That's fine though. I like 1 for the only reason that it had a better soundtrack. 2 was alright, but at least when it came down to combat, you at least knew how much damage you were doing. On top of that, you had a dash move, which in Remake was simplified oh so much better because the dash move did more. And on top of that, again, I like the soundtrack. Now what they say is this. There's debate among the fans of the Streets of Rage series on which entry in the trilogy is the best. I say 2 is the best entry because it was the most balanced of the trilogy. That is true. The gameplay was responsive and smooth. Hit detection felt fair, and difficulty was incremental. The difficulty never spiked, and Streets of Rage 2 had a good learning curve. Streets of Rage 3, on the other hand, throws you into the furnace from the get-go. Enemies rush from every angle and team up to take you down. Even if you play with Buddy, the game can still take your ass down. That's true. Zahn is the strongest, but he's slow, so enemies overwhelm him easily. Weapons can break at the worst moments, leaving you surrounded by a gang of thugs. Rage is a fitting title. On top of that, it had multiple endings. And in order to get one of the best endings, you had to be in a precise spot where it came down to finding the police chief and getting him out of there. Again, that was one thing I just never did like. It's like, okay, you went through this part of the level, or this part of the game, you went through this path. It's almost like with Outrun, except that unlike Outrun, the harder it became, and no matter what it was, and I'm stating this over because most people don't understand. When you tone the difficulty down, that doesn't mean you made the game simpler for yourself. That only means you're fixing the damage output to where you won't get one-shotted. That's why every time, or just about any other time, that a game has a toggle switch to difficulty, I tweak it down to where I don't want to take too much damage. But I want to take at least a fair amount of damage and not get chunked if I get hit. I mean, that's all there is to it. That's the only reason. Otherwise, I normally play a game on the difficulty I usually play it on, default difficulty. Because the game itself is hard enough as it is. And what you want to do is not get yourself overwhelmed to where your feelings would get all in it. Which I've seen most people would, very few people I should say, very few people would actually get their feelings all in the game. And oh god, it's a terrible feeling. When I'm not doing Let's Plays and playing games off camera. Some games I play off camera, but others I mostly like to do just for the sake of beating them. Whether I have the version on PS4 or I have a version on here, I just tend to like not want to blow an aneurysm because it's just a fucking game. Number 11 on the list, a game that I had at one point. Excuse me. I had it on Dreamcast, actually. The Sega Smash Pack. The Revenge of Shinobi, or the Super Shinobi. Revenge of Shinobi is the oldest game on this list and one of the worst. What makes Revenge so difficult is the controls, which is the worst way to make a game difficult. It's one thing to make a game challenging through level design or enemies, but when you do it through removing power from the player, that just sucks. Other elements of the game difficulty come from enemies suddenly appearing from any angle in the background. But the enemies jumping fast, so it's hard to slash them without the enemies getting a shot in. Another issue comes with Shinobi being so slow. For a master ninja, Shinobi isn't very agile and he feels like he's made out of wood. Bosses are no easy task either. Sometimes they're huge and have a big range of attack or require you to hit a small and specific spot. Shinobi 3 does that too. Admittedly, Revenge of Shinobi is pretty fun but frustrating. Then you should not say all this then. You should not say all of this. You should not say all of this if you're saying, admittedly, the game is pretty fun but frustrating. You're saying all of this, but you're saying, but it's okay. First off, let's get one thing straight. Come back to me when you've played Haunted Castle. You want terrible movement? See Simon Belmont in the arcade. See Hunchback Simon Belmondo. You're moving around like an old man with a giant shit in his pants. You can't jump worth a damn. You seem like you're struggling to throw out a weapon, let alone sling a weapon. And you're fighting these ageless ass old monsters. All for the sake of one thing. You want to get your wife back from being Dracula's bride. I mean, granted, yeah, Shinobi was one of those games that, depending on which version you're playing, could be a sheer mess. But then again, if you've ever played any game on Sega Genesis, hell, most of the characters were like that. See Sonic the Hedgehog, he was like that at one point. And not to mention E-SWAT. Come on now. At least we can agree that Shinobi, in a sense, was better than Ninja Gaiden. In some form, it was better than Ninja Gaiden, because the one thing that Ninja Gaiden didn't have too much of was your choice in magic. And on the other hand, having utility magic helped too. You had Ikazuchi, Karyu, You had the exploding one, and you had the jumping one. The names escape me, so that's why I remember. You had four skills to use. You had one for invincibility, one for screen clear, one for a high jump, and one to basically do the following: sacrifice. And sacrifice was your last resort. Okay, number 10. Comic Zone. I love and hate this game. Yeah, there you go, right there. You love and hate this game. On one hand, I love how fun and creative the game is. Combat is fun and responsive. Art style looks great to this day. Graphics look cel shaded. Let me say that again. Graphics look cel shaded before that was even a thing. Sketch Turner, the hero, is sucked into his own comic book, and has to survive to no end. Difficulty does spike, but nothing the player can't handle without practice. Now, the reason where I hate this game is that you hurt yourself when you attack, and you only get 3 lives total in this game. Not are. Now, the reasons where I hate this game are. No, is. That. It should start is. It should be like this. Now, the reason where I hate this game is that you hurt yourself when you attack. And you only get 3 lives total in this game. You start the game with 1 life and earn up to 3 in total, but that's it. But by the time you get to 3 lives, at some point you would have died already and lost a life or 2. Pretty hardcore handicap to give players for a game this challenging, and as we said earlier, punching an enemy drains your health. As a player, you have to decide whether or not this enemy is worth fighting, how you can defeat the enemy when the game offers no other options. It's a love-hate relationship. One word: cheat. No, seriously, that's what you have to do. Cheat. If the game is going to play that way, you don't play by the game's rules. You play by your rules. You're in your own world where you get hurt. Cheat. No, don't try to tough that shit out. Cheat. Because let me tell you something. Where most people don't understand. And I mean this to newer Let's Players and even ones who've been down the road like myself. All I can say is, fuck your pride. Cheat when you need to. Not when you have to, when you need to. Because there are times in which the game will not be like very nice to you. And it's all because of development. It's nothing you did, it's just through development. Because some of these people out there, they might have a bone to pick with some gamers. Not all gamers, but some of them. And you might need a little extra edge just to get you over the tough spots. So take it the way I said it. If you need to, cheat. If you have to, cheat. That means if you need to use codes, use codes. If you need to use save states, use save states. Hell, nobody will deem anything wrong with you doing that. Number 9, a game I've never played before. Robocop versus the Terminator. It's true what is said here. A fan fiction come to life. Robocop vs. Terminator is a dream come true. Surprisingly, Robocop doesn't move like he does in the movies, as he doesn't lumber around like a tank. Robocop moves quickly, can shoot in 8 directions, and can climb ladders with ease. He's actually a lot more mobile than Shinobi. Now, this may seem contrary to the character of Robocop, who's a walking tank, but he really needs the mobility. Enemies come from everywhere, and you have to react quickly to them. Robocop has to fight a bunch of different Terminators, ranging from the regular human T-800s to Terminator dogs. Levels have side missions, but you most likely won't get to them because the levels are so damn hard. Again, cheat. Terminators are bullet sponges with machine guns and grenades. The game has awful boss fights, and they go on forever. Good luck with this one. Cheat. That's all I'm going to say. Cheat. Number 8 on this list. A game that a friend of mine that goes by the name of Big Fatty Plus. He did this on his channel. He shared this with another person that's on my feed, namely Dr. Novocaine, who basically just gave this game a good once over and just say moving on next. And a game that I personally just said, fuck it, I'm using cheats. And I'm going to say this loud and proud. Chacon the Forever Man. Okay. This game is pretty badass and truly a Genesis classic. So, you play as Chacon, a man who became immortal after defeating the Grim Reaper in a sword fight, but was cursed to become the Reaper's servant and to fight monsters in order to cleanse the world of evil. When all evil has been cleansed, only then is the curse lifted and Chacon can die. The producer of the game, Ed Annunziata, had the reputation of making games that were hard to beat because he didn't want kids beating them in a weekend and never thinking about them again. Is that the same guy who did Echo the Dolphin? I think it's him. He's an asshole. Anyway, he accomplished his mission with this one. It's a well-designed game with intuitive level design meant to challenge players, as Chacon gets a bunch of different weapons and powers to fight his way to the end. This game is set up like Mega Man, with a hub where you can choose the level. It's like the Dark Souls of its time, and it's incredibly hard. This is where I have to say, fuck your pride. Fuck your pride as a gamer. Fuck your pride as a Let's Player. This game needs to be cheated. Cheated to the highest levels of cheatery in all of existence. I have played through this game. Even I was stupid enough to put it on the hardest difficulty. And basically just put cheats on just to be saying, you know what? Fuck it. Shit don't matter. Truly, shit don't matter. Because at this point, do you really fucking care about a game of this magnitude? Hell no. And on top of that, like I said, I went through this game myself on my channel. I went through this game on my channel with cheats, and I gave no fucks. This is one of those prime examples where if there's a game that causes personal harm to somebody, fuck it. You are not getting any kind of specialty treatments from me. Oh no. Oh fuck no. If you're going to cause rage to somebody, oh, yeah, hold on. Let me just grease up my fingers real good. And then on top of that, let me grease up the shiny end of my sword here. Make it nice and shiny and very sharp, and slide it all the way up your ass. And hope you can wiggle it straight out. Because you're not going to get the special treatment. Oh no. Oh no. You get the double fisties. You get the motherfucking Nadeshiko on your ass. I will personally bring the PTC down on your ass and basically ring the fucking bell and put together the most delicious version of Render Thunder I can ever put together in one go and basically tell you to go fuck yourself. That's what I would do to a game like this. This is the kind of game I would just basically say, nope. Fuck you. Nope. You don't get no specialty treatments on my channel. Moving on. Number 7. Contra Hardcore. Yes, the Genesis version of the Alien Wars. This game is as awesome as it's difficult. Here's the first level. Choose your character and start running down streets where robots are trying to slaughter you in a post-apocalyptic world. City's been destroyed, everything's ruined, and you're the only hope for humanity. The moment you start the game, you're immediately pressing the fire button. Weird Terminator bugs coming at you. Ground's rising. Robots infest the streets. Once you get a breather, you face the mid-level boss, a giant robot. Once you kill that giant robot, you continue until the end where you fight another giant robot. From the get-go, Contra Hardcore is throwing everything at you. The sink, tub, the entire house, absolutely everything. And this game is super creative. I can't even describe any of the bosses because of how bizarre they look. I can say with confidence, they're robots for sure, but they're really weird-ass robots. The picture above is one of those bosses that... And let me read that again. The picture above is one of those bosses, and I am at a loss for words. Contra Hardcore is an insane game in difficulty and content. Well, there you go. It's Contra, so there you have it. And like I said, it's basically the Genesis version of the Alien Wars, just on a bumped up difficulty. It's Contra. Cheated. Nothing else I can say. Now, this game I have actually done some years ago, and I also have the remake on Steam called Assault Suit Lenos. I think that's what it's called. It's called Lenos, but I might, yeah, it's named Lenos. That's the Japanese title, by the way. Assault Suit Lenos. Target Earth, number 6. Target Earth's a cool game. It's a platform with some elements of horizontal shooters like R-Type, and the game's only 8 levels long. That may seem short, but Target Earth is a busy game. Enemy robots always flying around you, and the game never settles down. Controlling your own robot suit is difficult as it lumbers, and there are enemies taking pot shots at you. And no different. Each level has different goals within them. Some you have to protect allies, some you have to destroy enemy ships, while others you have to survive an onslaught of robots. And because of the different level goals, you have to utilize different weapons and abilities to achieve them. It's an intense experience, and as difficult as it may be, it's still a lot of fun. You think that's something? Play Front Mission Gun Hazard. It's like that too. You fight in a Wanzer. Spelled Wanzer. A Wanzer. You also fight in your human form. And you're trying to survive throughout all this mess. So, hey, there's nothing new. This is about the same thing. It's a good game, but, you know, it actually has a recharge feature, so, you know, it's not really that hard. Again, cheat if necessary. I highly welcome cheating. Number 5, Gaiaris. For people who don't know, yeah, that's the actual title. Gaiaris. Gaiaris is another side-scroller. Let me try that again. Gaiaris is another side-scroller. Shoot 'em up for the Genesis, and one of the best, if not the best, of the system. The game is a mishmash of other shoot 'em up titles rolled in one. Game borrows from Gradius, an R-type in terms of mechanics, and the little orb that acts like a shield. Unique to this game is the random enemy placement and usage of ship speed. I'm slightly tired, mind you. Been a long, long week. Oh, let me try it again. Oh, excuse me. The game borrows from Gradius, an R-type in terms of mechanics, and the little orb that acts as a shield. Unique to this game is the random enemy placement and usage of ship speed. Enemies are never in the same place twice. Every time you replay a level, enemies change positions and will come at different angles. Your ship can change speed from slow to medium to max. As the player, you have to decide whether you want to go fast through a level or take your time, which depends on the situation. Gaiaris is as tactical a game as it is an action game. Speed and weapon usage matters a lot in this game. On top of the tactical part from the regular levels, this game has some tough bosses like the one you see above, meaning this is one tough game. Yeah, I played shooters back in the day, and I still have plenty of shooters I still have to play. For one, if it plays like R-type, yeah, it requires maneuverability. Now, if it plays like any other game, I would say EDF, Earth Defense Force. And what I mean by that is, Jalico. The people who brought us The people who brought us Bases Loaded. Let me tell you, it's very difficult sometimes to be doing this because, you know, I'm doing this straight off muscle memory. But the people who brought us such titles as Bases Loaded and Rushing Beat, otherwise known as Rival Turf over here. Earth Defense Force, you basically have to play with the speed. Like, do you want to take your time, or do you want to just go guns a-blazing when you need to? Speed is pretty much important. And there are some shooters that don't really utilize speed that much, or very often. So, play it at your own risk. Another game that I would also recommend is Thunder Force and Hellfire. They're good shooter games, even by Genesis standards. Number 4. Let me just say this before I get into this. Number 4 is Shadow of the Beast. Okay, first off, remember when Nick Arcade used to be a thing back in the 90s? This game was on Nick Arcade. Why the fuck this game was on that show? Hell, if I ever know what the fuck this game was on when they were just throwing it out there. The original, excuse me. The original was on the Amiga, and there was a trilogy. And on top of that, I believe only the first one was brought over to Genesis. And then later there was a remake on PS4. And on top of that, I remember there was another game that was just as bad called Sword of Sodan. And all I gotta say is, they were on some drugs that day when they were making this piece of shit game. Moving on. Let's see what they had to say. And I had to agree with them when they said this. This game is really damn weird. The game has you play some goat lizard man monster called Arbron as he goes on a revenge quest to kill Molotov for turning him into a slave. It's kind of like Oddworld Abe's Odyssey. The best way to describe Shadow of the Beast is if you take Oddworld, Salvador Dali, H.R. Geiger, H.P. Lovecraft, and A Nightmare, and you put it on a blender and hit puree. Ooh. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, there you go. As for its difficulty, it turns out the American version had an error in it. No big surprise there. Long story short, the game was made in Europe where TVs are different and the developers tried to compensate for the difference. For some reason, the American version was made 16% faster, making the game really janky to control and had enemies coming faster than most players could respond to. You really need to play this game to experience its weirdness. Also, a remake of Shadow of the Beast came out last year for PS4. I haven't played it, but it did get some decent reviews. Let me know what you think of the remake. Fuck no. Number 3. A game I actually had on Game Gear, and I also did on my channel. Fatal Labyrinth. This game requires you to cheat. I will tell you why. You are basically blind in this entire game. You only have one life. On top of that, you're running on food. And you need food to survive in this game. There are very few games that actually go with this. And the only other game I know that actually uses something like this, aside from Eye of the Beholder, is another game called Magician. You need to keep your food up in order to keep yourself surviving. Because if you don't keep your food up, you're going to die. And that's more dangerous than getting beaten up by monsters. It's like playing Mr. Digger. You need air to survive. And you need to make sure you get enough air to survive the trek. So let's see what they have to say about this. Fatal Labyrinth is an RPG that gets its inspiration from other old school RPG and dungeon crawlers like Ultima and Gauntlet. Fatal Labyrinth sets itself apart by being equally mean and cheap. First, the hero starts off with nothing but a knife. He has to descend the dungeon with whatever he finds down there. Swords, armor, magic spells, whatever. But if you don't find anything, the hero stays as fragile as a newborn baby. Then the game starts to play dirty. Food's necessary in the game to survive. You can starve to death, so you have to find food in the dungeon. What the game doesn't tell you is that you can die from overeating. Eat too much and the hero dies on the spot. You can also die from carrying around too much gold around, which is hard not to pick up. Since it's everywhere and you think the gold might be useful, but the gold is never useful. And on top of that, this cruel Sunday. And to top off this cruel Sunday, there's no save feature either. So you have to beat this game in one sitting. Fatal Labyrinth is available on Steam if you're up to the challenge. Like I said, I played this and its sequel, Dragon Crystal. The one thing that this game doesn't tell you is that there's lack of story. You know there's a growing evil. You, as this unnamed hero, goes into this labyrinth, and you constantly have to go through said labyrinth to find this evil that is creeping across the land, and ultimately kill it. That's the entirety of the game. Now, as for its Game Gear sequel, it works the same way, except that there is little to no story being told about it. So you have to play this game in order to understand the story of the second game. And the second game is just as bad as the first game. It's no different than the first game. So basically, it's all trial and error. You don't know what you're taking, but you have to make sure that whatever it is, if it hurts you, you better damn well find something that counteracts it. Because you're basically just walking around wondering, am I going to get stronger? Yeah. This game is all trial and error. That's all I can say. And what do I say to that? Cheat. Just fucking cheat. And now we're getting to the tail end of this list. Starting with number... I sense a trend with this one. Okay, first off, let me say this before I get into what this guy says. I've seen it on Nintendo. I've seen this on Super Nintendo. I've seen this on... I'm seeing it in this fucking list. Let me tell you. These people must have a fucking hard-on for making their shit just so unevenly big they can't really get it out of their fucking ass. Because they had to play this fucker. Known as Dai Makaimura. Otherwise known as Ghouls and Ghosts or Ghosts and Goblins. Now, truth be told, when you have to make a repeat of something this goddamn old, this proves one thing. There's some gamers out there that just want to get their ass handed to them. They want to get their asses physically chopped off, handed to them, and see the blood just utterly gushing from it and just eat straight from the cusp of their own asshole. Seriously. There's a reason why I stay away from games like these and just say, oh, is there anything I can play besides that? This is the reason why I play Gargoyle's Quest. I'd rather play Gargoyle's Quest because that has a better storyline than Ghouls and Ghosts, even though it's part of the whole goddamn story. But I'd rather be in the demon world with an actual problem than the human world where, oh, I had to save this one chick twice over. This game suffers from Marioism. Except that in Mario, you only need to deal with 8 worlds and not deal with 8 worlds twice. Unless you happen to like that second quest, which I can say, go fuck yourself. Y'all could kiss the cracks of my ass if you say I should play this game. You knew Ghouls and Ghosts had to be on this list. A game this legendarily difficult had to be on this list. The Genesis version is the same as the Super Nintendo version, as the levels are littered with death traps, bottomless pits, and enemies with a vendetta against Arthur. And it can't be Ghouls and Ghosts without its infamous health system. Even if Arthur had his gold holy armor on, all it takes is a couple of hits to kill him. There's truly no rest for the righteous. Then the whole game needs to be replayed in order to get the God's bracelet to formally defeat the devil. Play the Super Nintendo version though, as the music on the Genesis version sucks and Ghouls and Ghosts runs smoother on the Super Nintendo too. Or I'd rather be the one that just says, you know what? Fuck you, I'm playing something else. I'm playing Gargoyle's Quest. I'd rather play the ass end of being a gargoyle that basically was the bane of Arthur's existence, and you find out, oh hey, there's something even bigger and worse than saving one woman just for the sake of the whole goddamn realm. I'm sorry, but I'm not doing that. No, you can go fuck yourself. That's right. Fuck, period, yo, period, self, period. And number 1 on this list, in which I had to agree to say, why? The Immortal. The Immortal is similar to Fatal Labyrinth. It's a difficult dungeon crawler where you descend to find treasure at the end. The worst aspect of The Immortal is that it leaves players in the dark. The moment you enter a room, you have to instantly be worried about traps. A wrong step ends in a game over, and you have to start at the top. The game has you clutching at straws when it comes to puzzles. It's all trial and error, and if you screw up on a puzzle, then that's it. It's game over and you have to completely restart the game. Sometimes you have to combine items, and if you use the combined item at the wrong time or combine the wrong items, those items are gone forever. The game preys on players losing interest and track of the game. Everything looks the same, and you easily get confused. Of all the difficult games on this list, The Immortal is almost completely impossible to beat. Again, if I were to play a dungeon crawler, I got plenty I've played before. Sword of Island is one. Shining in the Darkness is another. Arcana is another one I played. Oh, another one that I have, but I would like to do one of these days if ever there is a workable Saturn emulator. And I do mean a workable Saturn emulator. Not RetroArch. I mean a Saturn emulator. I know people might be saying, oh, you know, retro art. Like, no, I want something simple. I want something simple when it comes to emulators. Emulation should be simple, not too goddamn difficult. Shining the Holy Ark. Or if we can't do that, Sega, please. I don't even ask for much, but please. Get it out there on Steam. Get it out there on PS4, Xbox, hell, Switch. Get everything that you had or still out there from Sega. I mean, from Saturn and Dreamcast, and port all that shit over to the current consoles. Steam is more than willing to welcome more Sega games to the group. Okay, as the same goes with every other console I have mentioned. Please hook us up, please. We need that. I mean, for me, I personally would love to see Shining the Holy Ark on Steam. But anything is much better than this piece of shit called The Immortal. Because it's just trial and error, and sometimes it's just, you know... You might wonder, is it worth it? I don't know. Is it really worth it? You tell me. But if you're wondering about my thoughts about it, I just told you them. For the most part, and I'm saying this right out. I'm not trying to prove anything about these games. For those who are wondering. I am not. I am just proving a point that, hey, why would you put yourself through this shit? We know very few people out there who actually do this kind of shit just because, I don't know, they get their kicks off it or they get a hard on from it, or I don't fucking know. I really don't. Half of the time I don't even watch the stuff that I have on my feed because of what people say about themselves that makes me not want to watch them. It's not people I don't know. It's people I do know and people I don't know. Just, if you don't want to play this game no more, then take a break from it. Come back to it later. But please, for the love of fuck. For the love that is all that is good in this world, don't fucking give yourself an aneurysm over what was considered so difficult that you had to play them. Nobody put a fucking gun to your head and said, if you don't play this game right now, I will kill you. I, out of the many Let's Players out there, have went through a lot. And I do mean a lot of games that I'm still doing at this point. You can see straight up how many games I'm actually going through. Some of them you're not even seeing on my channel yet. Because most of them, I'm pretty much having them ready to be put up on the channel for months ahead of time. Some of them might be slightly hard, some of them easier than others, but still, don't kick yourself in the ass just because you're not good at a certain game. And don't try to prove yourself worthy of being noticed just for playing these sorts of games. Hell, I can personally say I don't like La Mulana. I fucking don't care for La Mulana. And even a friend of ours in our group has played through La Mulana. Yes, You went through this game, but was your sanity worth it just to prove that you can beat this game? Come on now. These are some of the games that, some of the games on that list I've actually have on my channel. And I think I've shown you two. And that's Chakan the Forever Man and Fatal Labyrinth. So therefore, that just tells you something. It's not worth it. Even if I put myself through it, I just do it just to get it out of the way. I say, if I don't like it, I just don't fucking care for it. I will put cheats on. I will go kill them all, Tamino on the motherfucker, okay? That's all there is to it. That's how I feel about horror as well. It's like, okay, you know what? I'm into kill them all. I want to get it one and done. Let's go. Let's fucking go. Anyway, if you like this, as well as the other games that I have covered on this short but sweet video series that me and my friends of the RCO have basically looked upon and chuckled in our spare time over, please leave a comment, like this video, share it, whatever you want to do. And hell, if you want to just sub to my channel, please do so. Just know that I feel for you guys. But I'm not going to die for the cause of gaming. No, fuck that shit. I mean, it's been fun, it's been real, but it has been real fun. Anyway, I'll see you next time when we take a look at the 15 difficult PS1 games of all time. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.